Well, welcome back. Emerging evidence has linked the smoggy skylines that you were seeing in February of this very year. You remember the smoggy skylines? Yes, they're being linked and in several towns. They're being linked to high pollution levels within the country. You wouldn't believe. The display started in February and it triggered a lot of health anxiety among so many residents. Well, the fear about the hazy skylines was worsened by the Kampala Capital City Authority announcement that very month of February that they detected pollution several times higher than the World Health Organization normal range of 25 microgram per cubic meters. Yes, 25 microgram per cubic meters. That's what they discovered. Now, and in the many areas, this is what they found at 75 micrograms per cubic meter, meaning we had reached skyrocketing levels of bad air quality within this country. But then we do have Daniel Okello, the Director of Health and Environment from KCA, to talk about this and a lot more. We have also an expert from Airco, Makerere University, that is Professor Engineer Bainomgisa. Both gentlemen join me right now on the set. A very good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, let's first talk about that document I was just reading for the viewer. In February, the smoggy skylines. What exactly were we seeing? Was that cases of bad air pollution, bad air quality, and what compounded that?
It was cases of both bad air pollution and bad air quality. But in February, it was more of external. This was due to a phenomenon that was beyond the borders of Uganda. That was the winds that blew from the Sahara, and they came with particulate matter, the small particles from the sun, and that's how we got that hazy nature. But the beauty is, because we have installed close to 120 air quality monitors, we were able to very quickly come up with the answers, but also be able to tell the public what was happening.
All right, and let's also talk to, that is a Professor Engineer Bainomgisa. Very good morning once again, sir. Let's talk about the air quality. You present Airco. It's a project that collects and analyzes air quality data. So when you hear about Uganda having pollution levels that are 20 or several times higher than the World Health Organization recommendation, what quickly comes to your mind? 25 microgram cubic meters.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, once you have the air quality levels that are going above the recommended levels by the World Health Organization, it raises a concern because we know that poor air quality affects our health. And this is what we realized at Airco, Makerere University, that we needed to develop the technologies and take local research that can help us investigate into what is the magnitude.
Indeed.
Because what we've been seeing in the past is that we get isolated reports of air pollution, but they might not represent the picture on the ground. And that's what we do at Airco, developing the technology to measure the levels and analyze this data to inform action that can help us mitigate air pollution.
So are we talking about a public health issue? All right. What are some of the factors compounding this?
Yeah, so when you have poor air quality, it means that there are some pollutants that are in the air that are degrading the quality of our air, what you call air pollution. And one of the pollutants is indeed particulate matter, which are small, tiny particles of about 2.5 microns in diameter. And put that in context, if you take a human hair and divide that by about 30 times, then you have the size of that particle. And they are so small that sometimes you cannot see them. And when you breathe them in, they get into our bloodstream and they can cause a lot of health issues. So this particulate matter and other pollutants, they come from different sources. One of the studies we've done recently, we see that pollution can be attributed to combustion emissions from domestic, but also vehicles.
And using polythene bags to light up those local cigarettes.
Exactly, but also the charcoal burning as well is biomass, which contributes
of fossil
to
fuels.
Indoor air pollution, but also can affect our ambient air quality. But of course, you also have dust from the road, which also can contribute to particulate matter that if it goes beyond the levels recommended, then can have a lot of health impacts. Yeah, thank you.
Daniel, is it true that poor or bad air quality can exacerbate the spread of COVID-19 in any given jurisdiction? Because we saw it in India. First, they had very poor air quality, and the next thing we saw was another wave. They do not have oxygen as we speak. So, air quality, is there a correlation between air quality and the uptick in COVID-19 cases?
Right now, the evidence is not concrete, but as you say, the associations, and the associations is where there is bad air quality or air pollution, you find there is densification. There are people living in close quarters. They tend to be urban areas. There are areas where the population density tends to be high. Now, when you look at the transmission of COVID, also tends to occur in such populations where there is high population density, urbanization, people are moving. And so once you put those two together, you'll find an association, but the evidence is still being looked at. But the other thing
High
is
density, poor circulation of air.
high density.
Put together.
No, high density movement, COVID also does the same.
Indeed.
Now, the other thing is that prolonged exposure to bad air quality will tend to affect your lungs, and you tend to suffer from lower respiratory tract conditions. Now, COVID as a disease tends to also attack the same organ, which is the lungs. So, again, the evidence is showing that you may not respond as adequately, as your immune system may not respond as adequately since your lungs are already damaged, and you may have the severe effect due to COVID. But research is still undergoing on that.
Help us understand the relationship between pollution and air quality, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. So air quality is a measure of,
Right.
how bad or good the air is. And when the air quality is bad, then that means that we have, air pollution. So we know that, normally the atmosphere has a composition of, some components.
The particulate matter you talked about. Yes.
Yes, but when the particulate matter, get to the levels, we have ranges recommended by, World Health Organization and other organizations.
25 micrograms.
That define the index. Yeah. So if the concentration of, let's say, particulate matter is between 0 and 12, then the air quality is considered to be good. But if it's beyond 55, then it's considered to be unhealthy. Yeah.
So do we have any figures to show the level of pollution within our own city, Kampala?
Yeah, thank you. And this is what we've been doing at Makerere University together with our partners at KCCA.
Indeed.
At Makerere, we've been building low-cost air quality measurement technologies, which we deploy. We are fortunate that we are in an era where we can leverage technology to help us address the pollution issue. And the way the pollution issue is, if we don't have the right tools and methods, it will be very difficult for us to manage. So what we do is we manufacture these gadgets. We deploy them in the different parts of the city, as well as outside the city. And these take measurements every 1 minute, which is then relayed on in real time to our central systems, which then can be analyzed, and then we derive the index, which then you can be able to say that the air quality is good or bad. And as Dr. Kala already said, we have over 100 monitors already in Kampala, which means that we are prepared now to actually understand when air pollution is bad or good. But also we have the evidence now that can actually inform the policies and the actions that can help us improve air quality in our cities.
Daniel, does poor garbage disposal actually compound this problem of air quality? You have individuals who are watching morning at NTV that do not know that when they dispose of some food, it actually decomposes and it releases some emissions within the atmosphere that pollutes the air. They do not know that. Even the garbage that they toss around left, right, and center. Does all that garbage, poor disposal of garbage, compound on this problem of poor air quality?
Yes, and what we tend to do probably and subconsciously is burning garbage. And when you burn, it does not combust cleanly, so you release a lot of pollutants into the environment. And when you look at our monitoring, you find there are spikes sometime in the night, probably after 10, and that shows that after you've gotten home, prepared the dinner, then later on you go to your backyard and burn the rubbish. So there are more than 500,000 households in Kampala. So imagine 30% or even 50% were burning. That means that every one time, 250,000 households are burning. You can imagine the level of pollution you're causing. So if we just told people not to burn, that would be one step to drastically reduce the pollutants in the air.
Okay, would it be helpful to just tell them not to ban? What other recommendations do you have as KCCA? And what are you doing as KCCA to ensure that garbage is disposed of clearly and very well?
Banning is very expensive in the long run because you're going to get respiratory conditions. I'm trying now to give the effects of air pollution. In pregnant women, it has been shown that it can lead to preterm births. In children, it can lead to cognitive development. It can affect your cognitive development. So if you have a bag, or locally they call it a kadea or a bin, keep your rubbish there. Then with time, someone will come and collect it. There are KCC appointed agents or what we call the garbage collectors will come and pick it. Garbage in the short term, you may think you've actually got rid of your of it, but in the long term, it's very expensive in terms of health, but also in terms of cost that you're going to spend in future. Yeah.
Do we have a problem as a city of air pollution?
Yes, there is a problem of air pollution, not only in Kampala, I think globally.
Kampala being the metropolitan, having so many cars, you know, remitting these carbon emissions and so forth, so many companies, yes, doing the same.
Right, because what we see is that, you know, most of the time, especially certain, you know, times of the day, we see that the pollution levels tend to be in the unhealthy zones, which of course cause for action. But also what we see is that there is a variation of the pollution levels by location. We see that, you know, locations that tend to have a lot of green and trees, which can act as pollutant arresters, they tend to have, you know, good air quality. On the other hand, areas that seem to be busy, you know, heavy traffic, we see that the pollution levels tend to, you know, get high. And also in the morning, you know, from around, you know, 5 a.m. up to around 11, 10 a.m., we also see that the levels of pollution tend to rise. And that can be attributed to the fact that, you know, people are starting to, you know, move around, the vehicles on the road, you know, restaurants are opening up, people are burning biomass, which, you know, all contributes to, you know, air pollution.
Is that why we saw a great air quality during the onset of the pandemic in 2020? There was great air quality. Many of the news stories were about air quality. Uganda, Kenya, elsewhere where there was a COVID-19 lockdown. Yes, because cars were not largely moving. People were not moving. Companies or organizations were shut down. So there was a clear, great visibility of great air quality within that time. But then now, would you say that now that we are reopening, now that we are loosening restrictions, air quality is now becoming so bad? And if it is, what do we need to do to arrest that situation?
Yeah, so you're right. When during the lockdown, we did observe, you know, a significant improvement in air quality.
Indeed.
Part of it, you know, was attributed to the, you know, restrictions in the movements of traffic, but also there was some meteorological, you know, factors like weather and so on. In terms of the action that we need to do, I think it's important to know that, you know, air pollution is as a result mostly of human activity, and therefore at individual level, we have the duty and responsibility to take some actions that can either lead to improvement in air quality or can lead to air pollution. Therefore, the call to action is that, you know, all of us at the individual level, we can take choices that can contribute to improving our air quality. And of course, you know, with the, you know, government agencies as well, like SCA coming in to, you know, take other actions that can, you know, contribute improvement of air quality, such as, you know, tarmacking the roads and providing non-motorized, you know, transport systems and so on. Thank you.
All right, let's talk to you, Daniel, about resolutions or recommendations. What should be done to ensure clean air for our citizens in this country? How do we protect the children and the elderly from air pollution?
One, as I said, proper waste disposal. Please, let's not burn our waste. Burning our waste just makes our air quality worse. The other is our brothers in the border industry. There are now innovations of where we're having electric motorcycles. I think there are two or three farms that have started electric motorcycles. We know the two-stroke engines emit about 5 times worse than the four-stroke, which are the cars. So let's slowly by slowly take up the electric motorcycles. They are not overly expensive. The other thing is, as we have been told, way from school, plant a tree. And I hope today you can be able to go back home and plant a tree. And we are also...
Indeed, because they suck in all the carbon dioxide and they release the oxygen that is much needed.
The other is, there's a vice that's coming up, and these are to motor car owners. People are... There's what they call the catalytic converter in the car.
All right.
And this is supposed to make sure that the gases which come out of your car are cleaner. Now, people are stealing these catalytic converters because what is made out of them are precious metals. And in Kampala, it's called echisani. So when you take your car to the garage, you park it somewhere, it comes out without a catalytic converter, and people sell them on the market. A second-hand one is 2 million shillings. A brand new one is about 9 million. Now, that vice of what we are doing, we are making our cars unsafe. So the people who are doing it outside there, the mechanics, please, let's stop that vice of stealing catalytic converters from cars.
You're doing a disservice to the environment.
You're doing a disservice.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah. The other, of course, is this is for indoor smoking and smoking in public. We already have a law, the Tobacco Control Act. Let's not smoke in public. If there is no advantage to smoking, I think it's only commodity that is sold and has one sure outcome. If you continue eat it is death.
It's even put on the label.
Yes. The other that we tell people is that if you can, as I said, adopt cleaner transport for the industries outside there are cleaner technologies we can be able to adopt. I think these days you see less of the chimneys and burning and the coal that has been used all over, and in Uganda, the fossil fuels. So for the industries, let's adopt the cleaner technologies such that we can be able to have a lesser effect in polluting our environment.
We also have a 2.5 tax levy that was proposed on on companies that do not have recycling plants. Would that go a long way in alleviating this problem?
True, because then there's what they call the extended producer responsibility in the National Environmental Act. So if you leave plastics in the community, there will be the temptation to people again to burn. So the more you get out of the community, the less people will have the temptation to burn or to use it in another.
All right, let's also bring in Professor Engineer Bainom Gisha. How do we ensure that Uganda's journey to clean air is a complete success?
Yeah, one of the other things that has been happening with the other government agencies, NEMA, is
National Environmental Management Authority, right?
Is to put in place national air quality standards. There's a draft of that, and we think that once this is approved and put in place, will also help us to have the standards that can help us to enforce regulations around air quality improvement.
Is it true that bad air quality actually cuts down on someone's life expectancy? Someone might not be taking this serious, but it is.
Yeah, many studies have shown this, that poor air quality has a huge impact on our health. I think the current figures from the World Health Organization shows that over 7 million people die every year, due to illnesses that are linked to air pollution. And from Uganda, the statistics that we see from the KCCA are about 30,000 people losing lives every year in Uganda linked to air pollution. So that is how serious the problem of air pollution is.
Daniel, how will we ensure that we have great air quality in this country if even some of the purveyors of the law or justice are actually engaged in this problem? You have police officers who are aiding or abetting charcoal burning in this country. Don't you think even the people who are supposed to be policing our forests, policing this whole issue, are actually involved in the charcoal burning? How will we get rid of this problem if even the police is involved?
One is, as you're saying, is quantifying the problem and getting to know that there's actually a problem. Because the thing with the air, you can't by seeing tell that the air quality is bad. So one is that we have quantified the problem, and now we know that it's something of concern. The other, as you're saying, is to sensitize the people. I'm happy NTV has given us its platform and tell people what they need to do, because what causes bad air quality is human habits and how people do behave. So if you can be able to adopt our habits appropriately, and as I was saying, how do we dispose of the waste? What kind of car are you going to buy? Are you conscious when you're buying that car? Are you making sure that it is a car that is green, that we won't be able to have the emissions that are there? Are you going to be conscious when you're choosing your modes of transportation and saying, no, I would rather than us going with 6 cars, why don't we use 2 cars? Why don't you use a van that can be able to take more people than that? So those are the conscious things we'll be telling people. And it's such that it is a collection of the individuals that will make us move forward.
Indeed. Yeah. Of course, engineer, let's talk about the correlation between climate change and air pollution. Is there a correlation between the two, air pollution and climate change?
Yeah, it's, you could say air pollution is, is a subset of climate change issues, because we know that, with the, global climate change, impacts, one of the, among the other consequences, one of the, consequences is around, the alteration of the atmospheric conditions, which can affect the way, our air quality is.
Of course, cutting down of trees leading to desertification and so forth, bad air quality leading to respiratory diseases like stroke, heart disease, and also lung cancer, including pneumonia. Daniel Okello, thank you for coming through, and also Professor Engineer Bainom Gisha. I couldn't be more proud to have this conversation with you. Bad air quality, poor air pollution in this country, compounding the problem of COVID-19. Thank you for coming through to enlighten the population.
Yeah.
And of course, you're still watching Morning at NTV. I have 2 individuals that are going to be coming on set to be talking about the Uganda National Council of Science and Technology. That is Mr. Martin Ongo Patrick. And then we shall also be having the National Coordinator of the National Science, Technology, Engineering and Skills Innovation Enhancement Project. That is Mr. Okimat Anthony. He's already here to talk about what this project is going to be helping the country achieve. 1,200 people, no, 12,000 people shall be benefiting from this, and over 1,500 people shall be retooled on an annual basis. Let's take a breather. We'll be right back.